The plane hijack from Lagos to Abuja in 1993 remains one of the most daring acts of defiance in Nigeria's history, carried out by four young men determined to fight for democracy in the face of political turmoil. This event, which shook the nation and gained international attention, was deeply tied to the annulled June 12, 1993, presidential election, a pivotal moment in Nigeria's political history. The background of the 1993 plane hijack from Lagos to Abuja is deeply rooted in one of the most turbulent periods in Nigeria's political history. At the center of this historical moment was the annulled June 12, 1993, presidential election, which is still regarded as the freest and fairest election the country has ever seen. The election represented hope for a democratic future, with Mashood Kashimawo Olawale, MKO, Abiola, a charismatic businessman and politician, emerging as the clear winner. Abiola's victory symbolized a break from years of military rule and a step toward a democratic Nigeria. However, these aspirations were abruptly dashed when General Ibrahim Babangida, the country's military ruler at the time, annulled the election results, citing vague and unsubstantiated allegations of electoral irregularities. Amid this political chaos, young Nigerians, especially those who were politically conscious, felt the need to take drastic measures to resist the oppression of the military regime. Among them were four individuals, Richard Ogundaru, Kabir Adenuga, Benneth Oluwadezi, and Kenny Razak Lawal, who believed that the country's military rulers were pushing Nigeria further into despair. They saw the annulment as a symbolic and practical suppression of the democratic aspirations of millions. With frustration mounting and little faith in traditional forms of protest, these young men decided to take radical action to draw international attention to the crisis in Nigeria. Their idea was to hijack a plane, a bold and dangerous plan that would not only disrupt the political status quo, but also force the international community to take notice of the situation in Nigeria. This was a time when military regimes across Africa were facing increased scrutiny, and the four young men believed their actions could help amplify the call for democracy in Nigeria. They aligned themselves with the Movement for the Advancement of Democracy in MAD, a group dedicated to resisting military rule and advocating for the installation of MKO Abiola as the legitimate president. The hijacking was intended as a protest against the injustices of the annulled election and the oppressive actions of the military government. For the young hijackers, it was not merely an act of rebellion, but a statement of desperation and determination to fight for a democratic Nigeria. On October 25, 1993, Nigerian Airways Flight 980, an Airbus A310, departed Lagos en route to Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Shortly after takeoff, the four hijackers, all aged between 19 and 24, took control of the aircraft. Armed with knives and makeshift weapons, they announced their intentions to the terrified passengers and crew. They declared that the plane had been commandeered by MAD and that their mission was to protest the annulment of the June 12 election and demand the installation of MKO Abiola as Nigeria's president. Initially, the hijackers intended to divert the flight to Frankfurt, Germany, where they hoped to gain international media attention. However, the plane did not have sufficient fuel for the journey. Instead, the pilots, under the orders of the hijackers, landed the aircraft in Niamey, the capital of Niger Republic. The hijackers' demands were clear and direct. They called for the resignation of Nigeria's interim government, which had been installed by the military following Babangida's resignation. They demanded the immediate recognition of MKO Abiola as the legitimate president of Nigeria, and the reopening of media outlets and universities that had been shut down due to the political unrest. Additionally, they sought justice for the assassination of prominent journalist Dele Giwa, who had been killed by a parcel bomb in 1986, a case that many believed implicated high-ranking officials. As the plane remained grounded in Niamey, negotiations ensued between the hijackers and Nigerian authorities. The hijackers threatened to destroy the aircraft within 72 hours if their demands were not met. They released most of the 129 passengers, including Rong Iran, the vice president of China, but held the crew and some Nigerian government officials as hostages. Their actions were calculated to send a strong message about the urgency of their cause. The standoff lasted for 3 tense days, during which international attention focused on Niamey. Nigerian authorities, under pressure to resolve the crisis without further escalation, decided to storm the aircraft. The rescue operation was swift but not without casualties. Tragically, Etheligwe, a crew member, was killed during the raid. The hijackers were overpowered and arrested, bringing the ordeal to an end. The 4 young men were tried in Niger and sentenced to lengthy prison terms. They served over 9 years in prison before being released. Their act of defiance, though controversial, brought significant attention to the plight of Nigeria's democracy and the injustices surrounding the annulled election. However, their demands were never met. The military government remained in power, and General Sani Abacha later seized control of the country, ushering in one of Nigeria's darkest periods of military rule.